Have you guys ever gotten to a point in your life where you felt the need to ask yourself, how did I get here? Yeah, me too. Wait a second. I know exactly why I'm here today.
See you all same time, same place next year when I don't know, I'll read the manga or something.
Here's a better question. Have you ever promised to do something so far in advance that you believe you're never going to have to actually do it despite the fact that you 100% will? Yeah, me too. Today, we're going to read some books.
Everyone down! He's got a book! He's going to read!
And if you think that's scary, wait till you hear that I'm going to be spoiling Kyoani all throughout this video. Keep that in mind before proceeding. Also feel free to crack open a cold one in celebration of my brother's birthday. I know he turned 4 last year, but this year he's entering his 50s, so it's all good. Kyoani is a manga series that began serialization in 2007, written and illustrated by the enigmatic Kakafly. Going into this story, I was honestly expecting mediocrity. The story I had been fed for 2 years was that Kyoani's source material was garbage, but KyoAni saw promise in the concept and fixed everything about it for the adaptation. Let this video serve as a prime example of why you should experience something yourself before forming an opinion on it, because while Kyoto Animation did enhance the story a ton, what we have here is more than acceptable. The first 4 volumes follow the exact same plot as the anime, with almost exactly the same scenarios as expected. Yui joins the light music club alongside Ritsu, Mio, and Mugi, and they spend more time eating desserts than actually practicing. They pick up Azusa about a third of the way through, and then the hijinks of youth continues up until the original 4 members graduate. Been there, done that, so why should I even bother reading this? Well, it's funny, well drawn, and has the same characters you know and love from the show. For example, the bit where Ritsu narrates a character's inner thoughts out loud to mess with them is 10 times better in the manga than it is in the anime. Because it's a manga, we get to actually see thought bubbles around the victim's head before the final one reveals that they were coming from Ritsu the whole time. The art is, well, you're looking at it right now, so I think you can tell. With the exception of the cover images, which so many manga struggle to get right for some reason, I think Kakafly's drawings are very expressive and well detailed. As for the characters, in volume 2, Mugi mentions that she skipped out on a family trip to New Zealand in order to go to a New Year's party at Yui's house. Look me in the eyes and tell me this isn't Mugi. You can't. Alright, you can stop staring now. If anything, you should focus your attention on learning how to read this thing, and what Patreon tier you want to pledge to, but that's neither here nor there. This is a bit of a side tangent, but Kyoani's panels are structured in columns instead of rows, so you have to read the right side from top to bottom and then the left to complete the page. This goes against everything I've learned from reading manga ever since I was a kid, but thankfully it's pretty easy to get used to. And that's Kyoani. It's cute, it's entertaining, and it'll make you laugh. If those words sound familiar, you might have recognized them from this now ancient video in which I referenced a quote from Reiko Yoshida, the script supervisor for the Kyoani anime. See these words on your screen right now? Yeah, they essentially just did my job for me. But today we have something Yoshida didn't. A completed Kyoani anime, and hot damn are the comparisons interesting. There's actually a bit at the end of volume 2 where the cast celebrates the anime being greenlit, and it's adorable. Yui admits that she would randomly stop singing during performances and wondered how they would show this in the anime. Mio gets embarrassed and doesn't want to do it. Sawako puts an unhealthy amount of makeup on. I think you get the picture. One thing that might shock you while making the transition from anime to manga is how fast it is. It's the equivalent of going from a leisurely 120-star playthrough of Mario 64 to an any percent speedrun. The same story beats are present, but if you blink, you're going to miss every single one. Earlier, I used the word enhance to describe what KyoAni did to Kyoani, and I think that's the perfect word for it. From small details like Sawako flashing this smile after rejecting Yui and Ritsu's career choice, to major moments like Yui's mad dash back home to get her guitar at the end of season 1. A scene, mind you, that contains a monologue that I deemed as my favorite quote from the character, and based on the poll results so far, it seems like most of you agree. In the manga though, Ui just brings Yui her guitar and that's the end of it. You have background jokes that a reader wouldn't bat an eye at being brought to the forefront and morphed into something that I still hear people quote to this day. That gut punch after the band's final school festival is absent in the manga. They just skip to the part where they sleep with each other on the How did I not catch that while editing? I could have worded that any other way. Credit where credit is due though, I can confirm that Ui does not write you and I for Yui, she just takes a peek at it like in the anime. Special thanks to my brother for feeding me misinformation that I then spread to hundreds of people. Speaking of K-on's music, while planning the anime out, KyoAni created an honest-to-God band out of all of the voice actors and produced music based on the song titles from the manga. They then used their experience from rotoscoping the best musical performance scene in the entire medium to create some really great animation for the show. I know you've seen these four perform Fwa Fwa Time at the school festival, so I want you to give yourself a mental image of how that performance felt, how it looked, how it sounded, everything. Got it? Good. Now let's take a look at how the manga handles this performance. So, may have noticed a couple small differences. In short, this manga is short when compared to the anime, but it still stands on its own two legs and has exclusive stuff that's worth checking out if you're a big fan. And with 4 volumes down, we're now stepping into unadapted territory. A dangerous no man's land where everything is new and change is scary, Mom. I don't want to go to college. Good news though, volumes 5 and 6 are essentially Where Are They Now stories that follow the original 4 band members in college and Azusa's final year of high school respectively. We'll start with K-On! College. Right off the bat, I gotta take points off for how sanitized this quote-unquote dorm room is. No weird stains, no appliances that don't work for some reason, and no giant-ass cockroach chilling on the bathroom wall the night I move in. I'm still not over that. By the way, pro tip. If you ever find an unwanted critter in your house that you don't want to go through the trouble of killing, just give it a name like Carl or Steve and you just might make friends with it. Probably sound like a freaking psychopath right now. Anyways, along with our main 4, we've got 3 new characters. Yoshida Ayame, the drummer, Hayashi Sachi on bass, and the breakout star Wada Akira on guitar. I call her that because she's undoubtedly the one Kakafly chose to focus on the most. She's a punk rock girl who began down this road because she was inadvertently rejected by the guy she liked in high school, who thought that her band at the time was only popular because of how cute they were. And despite having a polar opposite personality to Azusa, she essentially replaces her as Yui's affection magnet. The two have great chemistry with each other. I like how she just straight up despises these 4 at the start, but ends up enjoying having to wake Yui up every morning before she even knows what's happening. In terms of content, there really isn't much difference between this and the original K-On! Another stigma I've heard is that the unadapted manga material is much worse than the first 4 volumes, but that just isn't true. There's some genuinely good stuff in here that I'd happily recommend to a fan of the series. I gotta give them their college realism point back because the original gang gets charged $100 per semester to join the light music club. Hidden fees are the name of the game in college, so bravo. There's a bit where Yui gets a fever and turns into a responsible student, which is really good. All in all, it's a short and sweet story that gives good closure to anyone who was seriously worried about the well-being of these girls after high school ended. And let's be honest with ourselves, we were all worried. K-On! High School is the other side of the coin, as it follows Azusa during this same time period. And, well, God, I just hate Azusa. She's so stupid. Okay, not really. Pro tip number 2. You gotta make these kinds of jokes quick so you can say just kidding right before hundreds of mice descend upon the dislike button. I'll admit that there isn't too much to say about this one since it's basically the same as the other volumes, so I'll pad the runtime for a few seconds by mentioning that on the first page I read this speech bubble as June, what the fuck are you doing? Interestingly enough, I wouldn't even put that past this version of Azusa. By Kakafly's own admission, he wrote her to be more assertive and casual with her speech since she's older than everyone she hangs out with now. I will say though, hearing her tell people to shut up feels very strange. Props for trying to grow her character at least somewhat though. As for new faces, we have Saito Sumire, who's our new Mugi. It's down to the point where she's revealed to be her surrogate sister. Now Okuda is my favorite of the two because of her uniqueness. She doesn't think she'll be good on any instrument, so Sawako gives her a laptop and makes her the music producer. Honestly, Honestly, that's pretty sick. There's another good handful of jokes. The gag with June's hair being able to predict the weather is really funny. While the three seniors are on a trip together, Ui wakes up in a panic because she overslept. Azusa then corrects her, saying that she doesn't need to get up early, and then June pops up and says today's humidity is 90%. It will rain. And then they keep doing K-On! Stuff until it's time for graduation, the bittersweet send-off, you get the idea. Now, this will be where our story ends, and it was the end for about 7 years. But in 2018, the world was gifted with more K-On! In the form of K-On! Shuffle. This manga throws familiarity out the window and puts us in the shoes of eight Light Music Appreciation Society members at some high school near the one we all know and love. And wouldn't you know it, it's still K-On! Picking up a new volume of this story with new characters felt like Groundhog Day. They get all excited about music but fail to practice properly. They have trouble finding out which instrument is right for them. They do the comedy bits where someone is stupid and then another character hits them with a retort. And with such an excessively large cast that cannibalizes so many traits from previous characters, they all just kind of blend together into this big moe soup. The repetitive structure of K-On!'s manga as a whole only diminished my interest in Shuffle further. Like, I like K-On!, I had fun reading it, but I can only go through the same song and dance so many times. Read 4 panels, see another punchline, read 4 panels, see another punchline, read 4 panels, fall asleep, wake up, it's been 4 hours, bye-bye sleep schedule, it wasn't very fun. I'll admit, I definitely didn't give the later chapters of Shuffle a fair chance because at this point I was reading every page like this. Okay, kinda you got better base 2, really did it, Pemi like feel like the go Kano senpai, why doesn't she know? Okay, what is it, Maho-chan? Please tell me what she got guts, but why, eek? I don't know, it's just, there's too much. The only things I've really praised about K-On!'s manga were the jokes and the art, and that's not enough to sustain myself through 8 volumes and counting. I think it more than ran its course after college and high school finished releasing. While KyoAni's K-On! Left me knocking on my brother's door asking if he was down to watch an extra few episodes that night, this manga left me exhausted, and I'm honestly glad that I'm done reading it. I wouldn't recommend against giving it a look though, because it does have its good qualities, and I know there are a ton of you out there who love these laid-back, cutesy stories much more than I do. And with that, I think we've covered every last inch of this franchise. If there is something I missed, please let me know within the next, 11 months. If nothing comes up, then who knows? Maybe I'll just have to drop the greatest AMV you've ever seen to keep this tradition alive. Please don't let it come to that. Special thanks to Silent Secondary, my wonderful patrons, and my brother for turning me into a guy who spends most of his free time talking about anime into a microphone. You know what? I take that back. Fuck you.